Ruble was the name of our small town. It was 1 mile from our farm. It had been called Tainter at one time. It was a railroad town on Webb Creek, 11 miles south of Ellington. Elsie Hackworth had the post office in her house. Our mail carrier was Perry Helvey. Later, the post office was closed and our mail came from Ellington. There was a friendly little general store operated by Ray Mann, and there was a pretty spring by his store. We would stop and get a drink coming back from school at his spring. The town picnics were held here too. Dad owned a grist mill in Ruble when he ground corn into meal and stock feed, and he ground wheat into flour. I remember taking lunch to him at the mill. He moved his grist mill from Ruble to our farm later. Ruble had a blacksmith shop run by Bill Beaver and a barber shop for a while. The Southern Missouri Railroad had a company store and a train depot. J.I. Hackworth owned a sawmill and a hickory handle mill. The mills furnished jobs for a lot of people. There were 20 or more families scattered about when I was little. As I said, there were picnics and carnivals at the spring. There were booths and stands for whatever was being sold, especially at 4th of July. Ice cream was always my favorite, and George Sutton always had the best ice cream at 4th of July. Us girls would carry parasols around and look at the booths and stands. We also had a lodge hall. It was from the Woodsman Lodge. Sometimes they would initiate new members. The lodge hall hosted our pie suppers, revivals, and Bible studies, and would even host funerals. Seemed like there was a community casket in the upstairs. I remember Dad's funeral was in the old lodge. Mom and Dad were saved in the lodge hall and was baptized in the creek by Brother Dorset, who was holding a revival. Dad liked to play the banjo for square dances, mostly before he got married. Later, the women of Ruble made mattresses in the lodge, and Mom sewed our first real mattresses there. One day I went to the Carnival with Lucille Gore. There was a Ferris wheel and we decided to ride. But when we got to the top, it stopped. Boy, was it scary. There was also a sideshow at the carnival. We saw a little woman with a big head. Now that I didn't need to see. I saw one other person like that. It was Peachy's sister-in-law's baby. We went from booth to booth looking at things. I had a fancy pink parasol that I carried around. There were also Cupid dolls made of celluloid, and I got one, but you had to be careful because they could be dented. There were also autograph books at the carnival to buy that kids could write in. When I was older, Saturday was going to town day. That was Ellington. We went to the corner drugstore and sat at the counter stools or at a booth and had a soda or ice cream. Ellington had a movie theater on Main Street. There was a Western movie night, and a girl paid my way just to have someone to be with. There was the 4th of July picnics at Ruble and square dances at the lodge, but I usually just watched. Mama wanted me to have some spending money, so I began to iron clothes for a local bachelor.